Okay, everybody, let's get this started, shall we? So, thank you so much for everybody that has taken the time from their day to have a look into 365 Cannabis with us. My name is Nick Macon. I'm one of the product managers here, and I'm really excited to take you through a more in-depth look at what this seed to sales system can offer. You have the ability to ask questions here as well. So I'm going to try and keep this dive into the application to about 35-40 minutes, and then I'll leave some time at the end for questions if anybody has some. So please don't be shy. This will all be recorded as well and put onto our website later on. So if you did want to rewatch anything later or share it with somebody else in your organization, that will not be an issue. So, to get things started, 365 Cannabis is a seed sales solution powered by Microsoft. The reason that it is powered by Microsoft is that it is based on a Microsoft ERP or backend solution called Dynamics NEV. We have been providing, implementing, and supporting this Microsoft solution for 10 years now. So lots of experience and lots of customers who are using it. And now we are solely focused on providing this solution to the cannabis industry, because we realized that yourselves, you have the same requirements as retailers, as the manufacturing industry, as all sorts of industries who have been implementing these sorts of back-end solutions for years now. So we've come to this with this software we've been provided by Microsoft. We've then added our own, let's say, cannabis layer on top of it, based on our industry experience and based on our experience in other industries, and now tweak that to cannabis as well. So we really understand the uniqueness around the cannabis industry, especially around compliance, traceability, tracking, all of those sorts of uniqueness, as well as those requirements that are quite similar to other industries, for example, distribution, retail, manufacturing, finance, etc. Now, with this system, it has everything in one application. So you have your cultivation, you have your processing, your quality control, your retail, your finance system, your inventory, your purchasing, etc., all in one. It doesn't matter how much or how little of the system you use. You may just want to use the cultivation piece, or if you are vertically integrated, you may wish to use it all. This system, because it has all those pieces in and ready to go, it will scale and expand as you expand and as you scale. So as you go into more states and go into more territories, or as you acquire your license and open up a dispensary, this system will allow you to do that and will not hold it back. So, again, some other things we have here is, because this is based on a Microsoft solution, you get integration and you get to use all of the tools that you are used to using every day. So with those products that we know, we love, and we use every single day, for example, Excel and Outlook and Microsoft Word, those products will integrate to the system already, and that's done by Microsoft. So if we're looking at our inventory, we can export that to Excel. If we're looking at our strains, we can send that to Excel. If we receive an email from one of our customers, we can create the sale directly through Outlook without going back to the system, etc. The system itself is based on Microsoft SQL Server for those that are quite technically savvy. So it's based on that database foundation, and everything can be hosted in Microsoft Azure. For those that are not aware, Microsoft Azure is their cloud platform. So Microsoft will ensure the data is backed up. They will ensure there is a redundancy plan if anything happens to their data center to put it back into another data center. They will give you the uptime of a certain percent, and they will take care of all of that hardware for you. If you, for whatever reason, need to have the data, or would like to have the data in-house, it could of course be installed on-premise, but the majority of the time it's hosted by Microsoft, which means that they take care of all of that for you. There's no need for you to buy any servers. It is completely cloud-based, as you'd expect nowadays. Microsoft would also give you HIPAA certification and some things around that as well, just so you are confident that the system is backed up, that it is protecting the data, and it is secure at all times. As Microsoft add more products to their suite in Office 365, you can then use those in the system as well. So for anybody who has looked or heard about Microsoft Power BI, which I'll show you later on, you can use that as a really nice, flexible reporting tool. Power Apps to allow you to create your own applications on cell phones, etc. As this is powered by Microsoft, you're almost investing your time into their research and development and their team. And Microsoft update this product once a year, so as they make changes to it, we get those changes, and therefore so would you. So we are almost the middleman between yourself and Microsoft. As they make changes to the system, we will update them into 365 Cannabis, and also that allows us to focus our time and attention on the cannabis specific functionality, and also by supporting yourselves. We take care of the entire implementation and the hosting and the training and the ongoing support after deployment, which is really core to what we do. We have a huge team of customer service consultants that post go live are available to ask questions, to do any additional training, and to help if any questions or issues arise. So that's enough of me going through PowerPoint. I'm sure you'd all be pleased to know. I'm now going to jump into the application and show you more about what it can do and what it offers. So I again trust now you can all see my screen. I've now just switched into the application itself. Now, this is the homepage or the dashboard we get whenever we log into 365 Cannabis. The really important thing about this page is that it is tailored to who I am. So if we have, let's say, the cultivation manager, and we have the accounts payable person, and we have someone in the dispensary, the PCR or the general manager, they're all going to be logging in to the same system, but depending on who they are, the system will show them different information and different pages, because this is your cockpit or your steering wheel. So it should prompt you when something has to happen, and it should make it very easy for users to navigate and to find what they have to do, so they don't have to search through anything. So here it's identified that I am Nick.Makin, and therefore it's automatically taking me into the cultivation area of the system. So again, this system has cultivation in it. It has finance, so it has full general ledger, accounts payable, accounts receivable, fixed assets, etc., which we'll dive into in more detail. It has processing and extraction, so whenever you're taking materials or putting them into a recipe and making a finished product, it has that capability with quality control added in and traceability as well. We have our point of sale in the system as well, so checking patients in, looking after our patients, providing them with the best level of care they deserve, all takes place in the same system. The same with CRM as well. If we want to market those people, send them an email, etc. If we're going to be buying stock from our suppliers and bringing that in, that is all done in here as well. So we've got our accounts payable and our replenishment processes all in here. This system also has multiple warehouses or warehouse functionality. So if you're managing stock between multiple locations, you can do that seamlessly and efficiently in the application. So what we're going to do today, we're going to spend about 5 minutes or 5 or 10 minutes looking at the various modules. And to get started, let's have a look at cultivation. Before we jump into cultivation, one thing to be aware of is that you can also access this system through a web browser. So I can open here into Internet Explorer and see the same system in a web browser. It's also accessible on a tablet. So if you have an iPad or Windows tablet or an Android tablet, you can download the Dynamics app, which Microsoft publish, and then you can connect into your system with your relevant permissions. Just notice that it doesn't matter where I am accessing the system, it always looks the same and it always provides me with a consistent experience, a secure experience, and the same functionality. So if I wanted to, I could jump in and go to a list of items and scroll through our item catalog and see what we have in stock with the relevant pictures, etc. Lastly, but not least by any means, you can also access the system on your cell phones. So you can pull those cell phones out of your pocket, you can go to your relevant app store, and you can download the Dynamics app again that Microsoft provide, and then you would simply swipe from left to right to navigate to the different areas and find the same information there. So this system is can be completely cloud-based and completely mobile, so you always have access to the information as you're on the go. Now, if I jump back to the system, I'll start to show you what some of the cultivation processes look like. So, in 365 Cannabis, you can manage as many grow locations as you have. It doesn't matter if those grow locations are greenhouses, indoor grows, or outdoor grows. You can set up those different factors which will be taken into account once you start to grow those strains. If I go to my long-term graph, in this page, I can use the system to show me exactly what is happening in a specific location. So if I wanted to have a look at my first grow facility, I can have a look at it by week, and I can start from perhaps today and for the next 16 weeks. And this graph is going to give me a breakdown of how much space is currently utilized in the Grow 1 facility. So we can see that this much is being used, and we've got our gross and net capacity here in total square foot, and we've got a lot left. You can see the weeks will go down, so we can see exactly how much space we will have over the next 16 weeks. To help us make more sense of this, I can actually view this by phase in the plant's production. So if I set this and refresh the chart, that now makes a lot more meaningful sense for us. So we can see exactly how much is in propagation, exactly how much is in flowering, how much is in veg, how much is in harvest, etc. So now we know exactly when things are happening in that facility. The system will allow you to go forwards and backwards in time, so you can throw away any crystal balls or complicated Excel spreadsheets that is taking you a lot of time and manual entry to maintain. The system will keep hold of all of that as well, which is, of course, very important when you get into compliance in some places where you have to keep the data for a certain amount of years. The system will also let you forecast, and if we want to tell the system what happens if we grow or if we take an extra 50 cuttings, the system will be able to work out the space required for those cuttings over their whole life cycle, all of the labor required and the materials required, which you're going to put into the cuttings in order to grow the flower. And then whenever you come onto a page like this, you can always tick the show forecast button, and then you can compare what is in production as well as what is in our forecast. So now we can see, great, if we combine both what is currently in production with our forecast, we still have capacity in our greenhouse over the next 4 months. So therefore, we're going to green light those jobs in our forecast, and we'll start to take those cuttings and plant them next week. But you have full visibility of all of that. Another page we can come to is our grow location overview. If I come to this, it's going to give me a box per grow location. So I've got grow 1 and grow 2. This is letting me look at what's happening in that location today. So today, our grow 1 location is 52% utilized. I can click in to that to view it broken down by section level or room level. Again, we can use these buttons here to go forwards or backwards in time. So we could be looking at this page and we could be saying to the system, show me what is going to be happening in each of my sections in 4 months' time so I can adequately plan for what we're going to do. And then you can see here that my room 6 is flashing red because it is actually over capacity. So if I have a look at this room 6, I can click on the room to view the jobs that are in there. So I can hover over and see, okay, we've got job number 31 for 600 cuttings of OG Kush, and we have job number 40 for 150 cuttings of OG Kush. Now, if we're looking at this in the future, I don't want somebody to go and move the cuttings from one room to another if there isn't going to be enough room for that to take place. So, because we have visibility of it here, I can simply take this job of 600 and drag it to room 4, which has a lot more room. And now someone will be instructed to put it there instead. Again, I could come into here and find a smaller job and move something out, therefore making room until everything has gone back to normal and we have the right things in the right room based on that space and based on that location. There we go. For those operations that would want to go down into more detail and view it by subsection or by table level, we can do that as well. So if I click on room 3, that will just show you an example of that would look like. You would have another section here per table or per subsection in your rooms. So you can account for the space and what is happening in those as well if you wish to get to that level of detail. So they're just two highlights of some of our planning screens. If we want to tell the system, I want to take cuttings, this is a very easy place to come and do that. I can scroll here and see a whole bunch of strains. We have about 70 strains already in the system and ready to go. So if I come to my OG Kush and if I want to say to the system, I want to take 50 cuttings, I can release this, and now the system's going to work out, without using any black magic or voodoo, exactly how much space is required, how many materials are required, and how much this is going to cost us. So now, all we've done is type in 50 and told the system to work it all out for us. If I press this button, this means that we can go to the underlying data, what is behind this 50. So if I have a look at this, this is going to take us to the job card for those 50 cuttings, and we can step through this. Now this job card is going to let us track that us growing that quantity of OG Kush. It's going to show us where we are growing it. It's going to show us how much we're going to grow, and based on our start date, what is our expected harvest date. Each strain has its own profile set up and already configured. You can of course tailor the strains to your practices and your processes, but out of the box, the system already has these life cycles and processes set up. So if I go to my production here, this is going to show me that for my OG Kush, it's going to go through propagation, veg, flowering, and then harvest. It's also going to show me the duration of each one. So propagation takes 4 weeks, flowering takes 8 weeks, etc. If you wanted this to take 9 weeks, for example, you could always come in here and change that, and therefore everything else will now be shifted down by an additional week. You can of course change that setting on this strain's profile, so every time the system creates the job, it always takes whatever you have put in there. I can scroll over to the right hand side and I can see this quantity per area, and this tells us how many unrooted cuttings we can fit per square foot in the greenhouse. So as they're very small, we can fit 14.3 unrooted cuttings in a square foot in propagation. As they get bigger, they take up more space, therefore we fit less per square foot. This will let us account for how much space is available for us to use. And if I scroll even further to the right hand side, it's going to work out exactly where this will take place in our greenhouse. So it's going to take place in our first greenhouse and in our first room. It's then in propagation going to be again in our first greenhouse, in our second room, and then it's then going to stay in the third room until it's harvested. But you can always change that as well. Now, for each one of these phases, there are, of course, tasks that have to happen here. So if I go down to my activities, these are going to show me all the tasks that have to happen. This is going to allow you to account for your labor and your materials. So we can see here, we need a stick tag to attach to the unrooted cutting. If I wanted to check if we have any in stock, I can click on the stick tag and just have a look to see if we have any in stock. Stick tags, yes, we've got 1,320 in stock, so we know we don't have to order any more in. If we do have to order any more in, we would simply raise a purchase order in here directly in the system and buy more from our supplier. When you get to replenishment, you can of course set up reorder quantities, safety stock levels, lead times, all of that sort of information, so the system will work it all out for you. I can click on this quantity of hand to view the underlying data. Therefore, so now I can see the trace of we bought 2,000 here, we used 200, we used 200, we used 50 here, etc. If I wanted to have a look at the 2,000 we bought and see when we bought them, I can press the navigate button, and you can do this everywhere in the system as well. Whenever something has happened, whether it's a purchase, a sale, a journal entry, a transfer, whatever it is, you could always go to the posted document like you're seeing me do here. And now this is the original document which we created months and months ago to buy 2,000 stick tags. And here you go. There's our line for the 2,000 stick tags. So, based on all of the materials and labor added up on here, you can press the statistics button at the top, and this is going to give you a breakdown of how many hours are needed in labor time for this job, and how much are the materials going to cost you, how much is your labor going to cost, your energy, your heating can all be calculated here as well. So it would compare your plans against your actual. So once you harvest, you can go back and say, were we on budget or on time? If not, why weren't we, etc. Briefly wrapping up cultivation, you can of course have a look at your labor plan to see exactly how many hours of labor you need this week. So for example, this week, I need 26 hours on Monday because there are lots of clones that I need cutting. I could then click in to view the underlying information here as to what those hours are related to. You could then go to your work orders and view exactly how much planting you have, how many labeling is out there, how much harvest jobs you have, what are mine and what are unassigned. Now, when it comes to those people in the greenhouse, they will have mobile devices which they would be scanning plants in to harvest, destroy, move, etc. Briefly moving on to the processing section, I can go here and have a look at my items or my SKUs. Now here we've got some items we manufacture that we produce, and let's have a look at a brownie as a nice example. A brownie has a recipe and a process attached to it, so you can set up as many recipes as you want against as many items as you want. So here I can go to my Cronus brownie and have a look at its recipe and see that whenever we make a Cronus brownie, we need this much flour, we need this much cocoa powder, egg, sugar, etc. We also have the oil here as well, and that in itself will have another recipe attached to the oil in order for us to produce that. So we have the recipe which you can define, and we also have the process which you define as well. So this is going to allow you, this is going to work out for you exactly what you have to do and when. For example, you have to first go to the mixing station. It takes 10 minutes to set up the mixing station. It takes 30 minutes to run, and then it takes 2 minutes to move it from the mixing station to the oven. It then takes 5 minutes for the oven to set up, perhaps to warm up. It then runs for 20 minutes. It waits for 5 minutes to cool down, and then you can finally move it to the packing station. Now, each one of these lines you see can be defined and set up, and you can appropriate your costs to this as well. So if you have a CO2 extraction machine, you can say to the system how much this costs you to run per minute, so you can have that effect on your cost of goods sold. Now, if we wanted then to produce a brownie, all I've got to do is come to the system and say, what is the item I would like us to produce? It's called the Cronus brownie. Where do I want to produce it? I'm going to produce it in our first grow location here. And how many would you like to make? I would like to make 2, just as an example. I can, of course, you can assign anything to anybody in the system. So I can always go back and assign this to myself, who's going to own this process. And then I can refresh this. Now, as we refreshed it, that has simply worked out all of our components in our recipe that we need to make sure we have. So because that we need 20 grams of flour per brownie and we're making 2, the system now going, okay, you need 40 in that case. So it's going to work out all of the components you need and the process as well. So if we have a look at the process, it's going to go, okay, you're going to start at 4:19 and then you'll get it then at 5 o'clock based on all of that setup there. Quality control, again, is in the system. So if we wanted to use our quality control portion, the quality control piece is very important once we are producing our own or processing our own goods, no matter what the good is. It doesn't matter if it's a brownie or an edible or candy or a pre-roll, whatever we are producing, this system will let us produce that. So whether we are producing our own goods or purchasing goods from our vendors, quality control will let us ensure that those goods have been tested and are safe to put on the dispensary floor. So for example, if I go to my brownie here, I can press create test, and this creates another record here for me where I can go into this brownie and say, yes, we produced this brownie on this date, and when we got the results, it had this much THC in it, it had nothing of these, the batch was consistent, and the temperature when it came out was 65. Based on all of those, it's passed all of those. You can, of course, have this information be fed from your testing, and if you wanted to do testing in-house, you may want, for example, instead of just providing one answer, to provide 3 answers, and then the system will take an average if you are taking multiple readings. You can, anywhere in the system, upload files as well. So if I had let's say a picture of the brownie which we've just taken a photograph of, I can drag and drop it onto this quality control record. So we always have traceability of, yes, this batch of brownie went through quality control, and here is the record of the answers that were given and the photograph of the brownie as well. So you'll always have that on file for whenever you need it. And then I can just simply go in and register it. So now you know exactly who created the test, who worked on it, and who acknowledged and closed it off. So you've got that traceability as well. As we are just touching on traceability, I could always come back to my homepage and I can press the trace page. And this is just one example of, because we do the cultivation and the processing and the sales all in the same system, it's very easy for us to pull our data together into one page for traceability purposes. So if I wanted to type in a batch number or a number of a unrooted cutting, I can see here all of the items it went into and all the times we sold that item. So Will Smith bought 50 on this day, Rene bought 5 on this day, etc. So if there's an issue with Rene for whatever reason, I can, of course, have all the details here to contact him to create a return, and I can navigate, and just like I've shown you before, go back to the original document which shows everything which we put through on the POS, which created this in the background for him. Now, having a look at the POS, as we briefly touched onto that, the POS again is something which will run in the system. You can upload your pictures on here as well. So, and each one of your users will be given a username and password, which they will log into to say who they are and what store they are working in. Now, this is a retail solution which is used worldwide by huge retailers, and the benefit there is that other retailers have worked out the requirements and the nuances years and years ago, and in some regard the cannabis industry are kind of catching up to that now. So this has all of those requirements and features you'd expect from a robust POS solution. So I can go in, I can check people in, and once people are checked in, I can simply say, yes, I'm now going to serve this person because I'm the bartender. I can go and grab that person, and then I can add whatever I need to on that account. I can scroll through here and add my OG Kush. I can scan in the lot number for it, and we can put that on there. It's going to add the OG Kush. It's going to add the picture of it. And perhaps if this is the first time the user has maybe used OG Kush before, we can scroll to the right-hand side, and they could see this on another front-facing POS device, but then you would show them a descriptions and perhaps terpene profile and effect profile of what this would offer them, so you can provide that information to them as well. You can offer multi mix and match and promotions. So if they buy 2/8 of OG Kush, we offer them this and this at a certain price. You can have your products stored in categories as well. So I can always jump down to my edibles and go to my brownie and add a blueberry brownie, and you can do that. I can push retail messages on here as well. So if it's at the end of day and we wanted to put a fire sale on something, I could put a retail message on as a manager and push that to all of my users, so then they would be fed that information. Also, this system has an e-commerce module in it as well, which will allow you to have your customers or patients place orders online, and it would effectively feed this POS where they could come in store to finish it off and be fast-tracked in a dispensary, or for those offering delivery service, be shipped and delivered to them based on a route. We can do the normal as you'd expect, POS functions in here like item lookups and item searches. There's a manager login for certain functions they have to run, but and each POS device as well will be able to print off reports as to exactly what sales have been generated in here, and as this is all in the same system, all stock and lot information and quantity information is all live and up to date, so there'll be no discrepancies as to any of that. Now, once we have a look at the POS, there's of course the CRM function which happens as well. So if I jump to my contact area, we can of course see all of the people here with their email addresses that we can market to. Against each person as well, if I have a look at Will Smith, to give you an example, we can see, okay, William Smith, we can see his unique number. We can have a look at his attachments to view maybe his customer form and his registration. We can go to checklists and see, have we followed the right onboarding process with him? Yes, we've uploaded his ID, we've checked his prescription, and yes, we've sent him a welcome email. Fantastic. I can double click and go to his balance and view all the transactions on his accounts, because in this case, William Smith is let's say a B2B customer and not a B2C, which wouldn't have an opening balance. If I go to my customer care section here, you can see, is Will Smith a patient, is he a provider, or is he a caregiver? So we can see here, he is a patient. If he was a caregiver, you could then relate him to a patient. So you of course have to be able to process transactions for the caregiver and then obviously make sure the allocation and the product goes onto the patient's account, not the caregiver's account. Again, whatever information you want to upload here, we have the driver's license, we have the condition, we have the prescription, all this information you can feed the system. You can also do some really nice things. So if we are going to recommend Will a certain item, you can go to the default directions for it and say, if Will, let's say if we recommended the brownie to Will, I can go in here and find the brownie, and I can say to him, take half and 2 hours apart. So you can actually provide him with specific instructions that will actually be printed off on the receipt and provided to him once he's in the POS and in the dispensary. So you can provide patient-specific instructions or directions that you will provide to him to better serve your patients. I can of course go to my patient history, and for this patient, I can go in and view his entire history, exactly what he's bought, etc. Let's imagine that Will Smith rings up and he says, we have an issue with a package which we received, it was broken or something like that. Then, as I'm on the phone to Will Smith, I can go to customer service and I can press the new call button. If I type in his name, perhaps I didn't catch the last bit of his name because the line wasn't great, I can press Control and F and the system will search for all Wills. In this case, it just found one, and I can say, yes, that's Will. I can ask him to confirm his zip code and his first line of his address. And then I can see here everything I need to know to better serve him on the phone. I can see his open entries on his accounts. I can see his most popular items. He likes the brownie, which we saw. He likes eighths as well of OG Kush. You can set up specific prices for him. So Will's a veteran, so he gets a certain amount off. We can be able to see that here if he was valid. And we can view his customer statistics. So how much sales has he got this year, last year, to date, etc. all held into one page. Now, if Will did phone up with an incident and said, Nick, the box is damaged, I can press new incidents here, and I can go through and say, and I can log a new incident for Will here. So I can go in and say, damaged box, and then I can give it an SLA. So this is his medication, so it's emergency and priority, high priority, and we need to get someone out to send a replacement straight away. I can assign it to somebody else in the organization, for example, Jeff, and he's going to get a notification that we have to rectify this. Now, as I go back and I've logged that for Will, we would then go to incidents and view that the one for damaged box has just been put onto his account. So we can view everything he's ever had an issue with to make sure he's not frustrated, and we have full visibility of everything Will Smith all in one page. Now, everything I've shown you today is fully integrated with our inventory and with our finances because it's all in the same system. So if I have a look at my items, this list here will show you all of your strains. So we have a whole bunch of strains here grouped in the relevant genus. It'll show you all of your intermediary items and all of your finished goods. So if we wanted to check our stock of our brownie, I can type in Cronus and go to that brownie here, and I can jump to the quantity on hand. Just like I saw before, it's going to show us exactly when we've sold it and once we've done a positive once we've produced it as well. So you'll always know exactly why you've got to this point. And like I said before, you can set up your stock levels, your safety times, your lead times, etc. Everything you see on this page and the entire user interface is completely customizable by you as a single user, by a group of users, or by everybody. So if I wanted to remove this information here, the quantity on purchase order and quantity on production, because I don't need it for myself, I can right click and I can press choose columns. Now if I go in here, I can simply select the information I don't need and press remove. And now, without me doing any development or with very little time, I've now changed that. So I can change that for just me, for a group of people, or for everybody in the system. And you can change information or fields you see on a page. You can change the areas on the right-hand side, and you can also change all of the buttons you see on the top. Now, lastly but not least, this of course has finance underneath it all. So it has full general ledger and all of our accounts here, which we post transactions to. So you can see here, the system has a chart of accounts which comes out of the box. If you have your own chart of accounts, we can use Microsoft Excel to quickly import that in instead. Now, here I've got a few accounts for dispensary 1, cash account, dispensary 2, etc. And our dispensary 1 has a balance on it. So I can just go in and click that, just like I've shown you previously, and view all of the underlying data behind it. And this system has fixed assets management in as well. If you wanted to post depreciation of certain fixed assets, it has full accounts payable and accounts receivable for purchase invoices, sales invoices, etc. And it also integrates to Excel, like I said before. So if you wanted to quickly send something to Excel, like this list, I could quickly just press Control and E, and now it's going to open that in Excel. It's going to open it in a table, so it's not going to open it in a CSV format, which we have to play with. It's already in a table, so I can filter this based on those accounts with a large balance. There we go. I could always save this away on my desktop, so if I ever need to come back to this again, I don't have to go back to the system to find the page. I can simply go in and hit refresh, and you can see there it's refreshed that time and date based on the values, and if I have access to that information. In terms of reporting, there are a lot of reports that come out of the box that are built into the system in areas like here. All these reports are already in. There's a tool as well which will let you create your own reports and customize them. So if you wanted a trial balance by a month, there is no reason why we should recreate that because we already have one. So I can simply use this tool here, which you're looking at, to find a report I want to run, a trial balance. I can double click that report, and again, it's going to open it in Microsoft Excel. And all I've got to do in this example is simply select the year or change the year I want to report in, which is 2017. Press run, and now within 30 seconds, we've got a trial balance by month pointed at our data. So you don't have to recreate reports and then design them yourself if you don't want to. But if you do want to write your own reports, you can. You can do that in this tool in Excel, or you can even do it in Microsoft BI, which I spoke about earlier on. So this is an example of BI. Again, it's a Microsoft product available with an Office 365 subscription. I believe it's actually free to use to start with, and then it's only costed when you then have to share it between people. But this is now showing me all of my sales data, and it's a dashboard for that. So I can see all of the sales here. I can scroll through and see them all. Or I could say, show me all of the sales for OG Kush, which accounts for 65% of our sales. Okay, there it is. These are now all the customers that have bought OG Kush. These are all of the SKUs which OG Kush has been put into, which is item 50,001. And then we could further filter that by just show me dispensary, okay, or just show me wholesale, etc. So you can very quickly drill into all that information to let you filter and make those decisions. But whatever reporting preference you have, Power BI is a very nice way of doing it. Equally, there are reports inside the system and in Excel which you can use. Now that covers a lot of the high-level basics of what I would like to show you today. This system as well is integrated with the BioTrack and Metric and all of the state systems as well to ensure compliance. So wherever those systems have an API, we automatically push data from 365 to the state system to ensure you are compliant. So all of that is taken care of by us as well. We will take care of the implementation and the support and the setup of the entire and the training package as well. All of that will be taken care of. So I hope that has given everybody a bit of a better understanding as to what the system can offer. I appreciate this is only a high level at 5 minutes on each function, but there is of course a more detail behind each one. You can go into inspections, into automation, into approvals and workflows, and lots of different more sophisticated functionality as well. One thing which I shouldn't miss out is that you can also talk to your system, which I know sounds a bit strange, but if I come back to my dashboard here, I can say hi to the system, and it will say hi back. It knows who I am. And this obviously now will allow me to ask questions about all the data we've been looking at. So I can start off by asking, what is the total quantity in Grow 1, which was that location we saw before? Great, that's the quantity we've got available. It's fantastic. I don't have to run reports to find that out. I can find out something about Will Smith's account if I have permission to it. So what is the balance of William Smith? I think we saw him before. That's a balance on his account. What is his address? That's his address. And get directions, because the tool remembers the context of a conversation. So I can say get directions, and the tool is going to give me a Google Maps link from one address to another, just like that. So again, you can talk to your system and pull that data out very easily. So I ran slightly over, so I'm very sorry that I did. I hope that gave everyone a bit of an understanding of what the system can do. I'm now going to have a look if there are any questions. So if you do have any questions, feel free to write them in the question section and I will answer them. Someone has just asked how configurable is the system? Well, that's a great question. So Everything you see can be customized and configured. So if you wanted perhaps a slightly different process somewhere, or if you wanted any development, it's completely available at the back end for us to customize it and tweak it based on anything you may require. A question on, does the system work based on cash-based and accrual-based accounting? Yes, it does. Very great question. Before absolutely anything, this system was a finance system. Before it had customer management and CRM and retail, it was a finance system back in the 1980s. So it's very mature in that functionality, and this system has like 100,000 implementations worldwide, and absolutely everybody is using finance. Nobody uses this system and does not use finance. And what we've seen is, because we've often replaced QuickBooks and a lot of our clients, they're able to use this system to maximize their tax deductions because they can prove absolutely everything and they don't have to take such a hit. You can as well, something I didn't mention before, have payroll in the system as well. So if you do not have an external payroll provider, we have a payroll module which will do that for you inside this system. So I hope that answers both those questions that came in there. And that would be both Canadian and American. This system lets you manage multiple entities. So you can manage an entity, a consolidation entity, a non-for-profit entity, all in the same system. You can then do intercompany transactions between them. So a purchase order in one, create a sales order in another, etc. And you can as well change your language. So it's available in lots and lots of different languages, obviously English, French, Canadian, Spanish, etc. So no matter what language you need a system in, all you've got to do is select the language and everything else will just update. A question on allocating transactions, basically. Whenever a transaction is put into the system, there is something called a dimension, and you can have up to 8 dimensions, which lets you just tag bits of information about, let's say, a purchase invoice. So you can say what location this is for, what entity this is for, and what department this is for, what profit center this is for, what strain this is for, etc. So when you run your report off your general ledger, you can say, show me everything for a specific department, or show me everything for a specific location. That is all just built out of the box in the system. Yes, so in terms of seed to sale, every plant is uniquely tracked. So we would, I didn't touch on that too much today because it's more of a deep dive, but of course, every plant is uniquely tracked. The system will either automatically generate the IDs itself, or in some states where we have to use the state ID, we will take the IDs from the state system and use them. You then have each plant uniquely tracked. You then be able to scan each plant to see, or to process every time you're moving it, every time you are destroying something, every time you're harvesting something. It's all traced there. The traceability is in this system. It's not using any other system. So the cultivation in terms of traceability and everything like that is all done inside this system. I'd be more than happy to do a more deep dive into that specific area as well. Another question there. Does it have the capability to work in more than one currency? Thank you very much for asking that, because I forgot. Yes, it does. Multi-currency, multi-language, multi-entity. Again, this is a Microsoft system, so they have put all of that functionality in there. So it doesn't matter what currency either yourself or your suppliers are working in, you can handle all of those differences as well. You can set up the exchange rates. You can set up whether you want the exchange rates to be automatically worked out or whether you're going to input them once a week, etc. A question on patient limits. That's a great question. So on the POS screen you saw before, you would have a available allotment on that screen just next to their name. And every time a lot is scanned, the system goes back to the state system to find out how many units that lot is worth. Therefore, it deducts it off its allocation, because it's critically important that we never over dispense to patients. So you would see that there would be a piece of information on the POS called available allotment, and that would decrease every time something is scanned and entered onto the POS transaction. Third-party app integration, yes, it is. This system can integrate to absolutely everything. It doesn't matter if it's weight scales, cash draws, environmental controls in the greenhouse. It can also integrate to an e-commerce system, which we already have, to portals, which we have. But also, if you wanted to do something with, let's say, product menus in dispensaries or anything like that, yes, this system is open source and it can be used, and the data can be sent elsewhere. So I believe that wraps up the rest of the questions I had there. I hope those very brief answers answers those questions for you. Let me have another look. Can you limit certain users for security purposes? Yes, you can. So user setup, again, is very important here. So you would set up all the people that need access to this system. And if I jump to myself, for example, you can specify what this person can do. So at the moment, I'm a super, I can do everything, but there are dozens and dozens and dozens of permissions you can associate. So if this person only gets to do accounts payable, we'll put that role for them so they never get to access the greenhouse data or the patient data. That is critically important. So yes, every user is given a specific permission set, which is then used so they can't access data they are not allowed to access. Thank you for that question. So I believe that wraps up the majority of the questions. So I just wanted to thank everybody again for joining today and for taking that hour out. I'm very sorry that we ran slightly over. If you would like us to follow up and do more of a deep dive with you to look at a more tailored demo and a more specific demo into any relevant piece, or if you have any follow-up questions at all, please feel free to reach us through our website or email info@d365cannabis.com. More than happy to do any further demos and answer any further questions. Again, this recording will be sent out to everybody as well if they would want to watch it afterwards. But again, I'd just like to thank everybody for taking the time. Enjoy the rest of your day, and if there's anything else we can ever do, please do not hesitate to reach out and ask us a question. Okay, thank you everybody, and hopefully I will talk to you soon. Bye.